We have so many great questions today, but the main question is on open fire cooking and smoke and safety. Thanks for joining us today on Questions and Answers with James Townsend and Son. The first question is from Alexandra, 1979. This is on the boiled trout episode that we just did. And she says, this looks scrumptious. Is there any 18th century recipe for fish pie? And yes, there are some great, in fact, there are many fish recipes in these 18th century cookbooks. Very popular. We don't have nearly the kind of variety of fish that they had back in the 18th century, but there are some fish pies, and I'll do my best to get a fish pie episode coming up here in the next few months. On the same video, David Barnhart says, what happens if the butter doesn't cook the fish all the way through? Can one get sick? Also, the snippets, actually they're sippets, are they just regular bread, sourdough, or homemade? And lastly, where can I get a copy of the actual recipe? And also, he as an addendum here, he says, is the ginger necessary? There's a lot of good questions there. The cooking of the fish all the way through, it really does not take a lot to cook this fish. So once you bring that sauce off the fire, and you still have that nice residual heat there, you want to have a nice heavy pan that you're cooking that in. He was cooking that in cast iron. It really holds that heat for a while. It does not take that much to cook it. If it doesn't get cooked all the way through, normally fish isn't that bad, even in its kind of semi-raw state. You never want to overcook fish anyway, so I don't think you really have an issue with that. Go ahead and try it out. You will be able to tell if it doesn't get cooked all the way through. The sippets that we did were just a simple little loaf. You can use anything you'd like. A small sourdough loaf would be great. You probably want a bread with something that has a little bit more of a dense crumb in it, so a sourdough would be a great bread to use in this situation. And ginger, is it necessary? No, but it's a real interesting addition. It was not overpowering, so go ahead and try the ginger. If you really don't like it, don't put it in. It's not going to make that much difference. As for the actual recipe, make sure to head over to the savoringthepast.net blog, and I will do my best to have a post there that has the actual recipe and a little bit of our adaptation of it. Lewis Ward has another comment or question on this particular episode, and let me cut to the chase. I wonder where Martha obtained the brook trout in the Tidewater district. And the answer to this is she didn't. Remember that this cookbook isn't one that Martha Washington put together herself, but it was one handed down to her most likely. The recipes in this cookbook are 17th century most likely, so a good 50 or 100 years before Martha Washington's time, and it's likely this cookbook came from England where they had access to this particular kind of trout. So the real question is, how did she adapt this recipe? What kind of fish did she use in this same kind of way? That would be an interesting question to answer. We had a couple of interesting questions on the earthen oven, the 24-hour earthen oven video that we did. This is Mariala. She says, I was wondering if you built a big bonfire all around a new oven, over it and around it and inside it. Perhaps you could bake the clay into the terracotta state to resist rain. And Magnet Nerd had almost exactly the same question comment. It's an interesting idea. They did have ovens that were somewhat like that in the 18th century, where they would fire the complete oven and make it into like a piece of pottery. And there are examples of that archaeologically. Could we do it today with an oven like this? It would be very, very difficult to get this oven that you built on the ground up to a high enough heat that it would turn it into pottery and not make it dissolve. It's possible. It would be very, very difficult. This question comes from Ingalls Creek Wilderness Outfitters. And the question is, it's really sort of a general question about the kitchen set that we use. What kind of ventilation system is in place to not get any smoke accumulation inside from the fire pit or the raised hearth that we're using in cooking? The good answer here is we get smoke in there all the time. It's a horribly smoky way of cooking. That open that open raised hearth, even though I've got an insulated stack that's like 20 feet tall, it still doesn't draw very well most of the time. Some days are pretty good, other days it's very smoky in there. And that's a common thing even in the 18th century and before. You'll see paintings, smoke is pouring out of these fireplaces. It can be very difficult at times to get a good draft. And really, that's just the nature of the beast. This question comes to us from Fort Bumper. Could you give us some reference to what Mr. Dragoo talked about women being scorched by fire in cooking? Yeah, in this video, Michael mentioned women getting burnt when they were cooking. And you can imagine, either in a campfire situation or a hearth cooking situation, you got an open fire, the fire's down at the floor, all the women were wearing skirts, fairly voluminous skirts. The skirts were both made of linen, and they quite likely might have had grease on them or any number of things like that. So it was very common for women to get injured, to get burnt badly, or even killed while they were cooking, because they had to cook with these fires every day, all the time. And it was a very difficult situation to be in. And even, in those kinds of cooking situations, everybody was at risk, men and children, anybody who was around that open fire. And it's even difficult today. In a reenacting circumstance, we have to be a lot more careful about how we're doing our cooking. Now, there are a number of things we can do. We need to be very aware of our situation, how dangerous it might be. But we need to make sure that we've got, water close at hand. There are things we can do with our clothes to make them less susceptible to catching fire. And so that's something that definitely needs to be researched. Also, just the awareness of the situation is what we really need to be taking care of. We want to be able to do living history like this, but we want to be able to do it safe. So we just need to really pay attention. And here's a quick question. Chris Singer says, I noticed you're using a soldier's type knife here. Do you sell them? Do you post them to the UK? Great videos. Yeah, we do have our 18th century soldiers' knives. They are available in our print catalog and on the website, and we do sell to and ship to basically all around the world, but we sell a lot to the UK. So the shipping is a little bit difficult. We have to give you a shipping quote on packages overseas, but definitely check it out. We ship to the UK all the time. A couple of quick announcements. We are having a sale here in the store, kind of a garage sale where we got all kinds of weirdness that has been laying around the shop, and we want to give you a chance to buy it. If you're interested, it's on March 4th and 5th. You even get a special discount if you come in period clothing of 10% off, and I'll put a link down in the description section of this video if you want more information. Oh, and I want to welcome all you new Reddit viewers. I know a couple of our videos have showed up on Reddit here in the last couple of weeks, and it's gotten a lot of subscribers from that and a lot of views. So thank everyone. Thank you, everyone who puts things on Reddit, and all you new Reddit viewers. Also, everyone who's retweeted out those links to the videos, which has gotten very popular recently. Thank you so much for that, and all the sharing. It really makes the channel grow so the message can go out. So thank you so much for all that sharing. I want to thank everyone for your wonderful comments and questions. Great encouraging comments. Thank you so much for that, and thanks for watching. If you're a new viewer and you haven't subscribed, press the subscribe button up here. That'll take you to a spot where you can subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching.